flower or trim from these sites in Maine and found it has pesticides and fungicides on it, but there's also a plant growth inhibitor called paclobutrazol. It's very popular amongst the Chinese growers, and it makes your plants less stemmy and focuses more of their growing energy on weed. So you get faster turnaround on your product from seed to harvest.
And what am I looking at?
That's a picture of a THCP joint that I bought at a gas station in Lewiston.
Lewiston,
Maine.
Okay.
So not a dispensary, not regulated. This was I was actually in that area because I was going to investigate. We got a public records request showing us where all the shooting incidents were in Lewiston, and so I wanted to go check out the areas where all the shootings were. And so I went to this convenience store that was on the block, and just happens that they're selling all of these, synthetic hemp products and some 7-OH products.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that yet.
I start looking into this THCP thing, but again, this is, it's available in a poor, one of the poorest, most dangerous parts of Lewiston. No regulatory oversight. Mm-hmm. The person who's selling this to me doesn't, they're not going to card. They don't care. It's no trouble if they get caught. But if you look on the back of this, it's got a little QR code that you can scan, so you can go to the lab and you can get the certificate of analysis that's going to show you that it's all garbage. It's all faked. And the company supposedly that does the analysis on this won't return my phone calls, and they're like big time hemp lobbyists. And if you look at the certificate of analysis that's associated with this THCP joint, you follow it all the way to the end to try to find the address of the company that produced this joint. It's going to pop up in a field out in Colorado. So there's no one there. So we have no idea where this product came from, but it's got THCP in it, and it's sitting on a shelf in Lewiston, Maine. And the THCP very likely was manufactured in China by Shanghai Minstar or a company like that. So there's this is the hemp loophole for one. This is China exploiting America for two. And This is the brave new world of these synthetic drugs where we've got this ancestral memory of smoking tobacco and marijuana, and therefore it's safe. Or you go to the grocery store and you buy something and therefore it's safe. Those rules don't apply anymore, especially not with gas station drugs, gas station heroin, gas station weed. Like, you have people who don't give a fuck about their end consumer. They just know they're going to make money on it. Yeah. Or maybe it's the Chinese Communist Party and they want to undermine the American public and undermine public health by flooding the market with these cheap, dangerous drugs. So buyer beware is the name of the game. Like, you talk about people smoking something, the vapes make it even harder. Like nicotine vapes, the cannabis vapes, it's much harder to know what exactly you're dealing with. And it's beyond the means of the average person to test a product every time they buy it. If they're going to just be a recreational cannabis user, there has to be a level of trust between, just like you trust that somebody's not poisoning your coffee or your beer. You have to trust that somebody's not poisoning your weed. And increasingly that trust is harder to place.
How do you, if right now someone's listening, and I'll be even specific about this, they're the parent of a 13, 14-year-old specifically, coming into high school soon.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the helicopter parent that locks your kid in a room or, doesn't let him be a kid and experience some things. How do you have the conversation with them, though, about making the right choices, which also involves being very careful what they consume, if not that you're condoning it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe my opinion will change when I'm actually having this conversation, but I think that you just have to be honest with them, because the truth is fully sufficient. You don't have to be like, if you smoke pot, you're going to turn into a lazy bum and you're going to end up arrested and it's the gateway drug and you're going to be, sucking dick for crack down on 5th Street. You don't have to do that. You could just tell them like, hey, I tried it when I was a kid. It was a little bit different when I was a kid. Wasn't as strong. And we knew, that like Reggie out back, down the street was like growing it in his backyard or something. Like, so we generally knew the chain of custody for this product we were smoking. You won't. You'll go to a dispensary and, there might be some certificates of analysis or some safeguards, or you'll buy it wherever. But here's what you are consuming and here's what could happen if you have a genetic predisposition for addiction or psychosis or schizophrenia. Here's what could happen if you become a chronic user. Here's the money you're going to end up spending. Here's the cost or the toll of addiction on your life. And here are the unintended health consequences if you end up with a vape pen that's been laced with 7-OH or laced with fentanyl, or this THCP product. I mean, we've seen photos that people have posted online of their trip to the emergency room after eating a gummy, typically THCP, where their heart rate's like a 230. You know, that like the what is it? Not the tachyometer. That would be revolutions per minute, but the EKG is just screaming off the charts because their heart's going a mile a minute. That's not a comfortable place to be. And then who knows what the long-term consequences are of consuming like organophosphate pesticides and fungicides. Could be talking about fertility issues, hormone issues. You know, I would tell, you know, if your child is male, tell them like, you know, it's a chance your dick's not going to work. It's true. You know, they could
really with some of this stuff.
I mean, the reproductive harm, endocrine disruptors. There's a chemical called paclobutrazol that is very common. We've actually tested flour or trim from these sites in Maine and found it has pesticides and fungicides on it, but there's also a plant growth inhibitor called paclobutrazol. It's very popular amongst the Chinese growers, and it makes your plants less stemmy and focuses more of their growing energy on weed. So you get faster turnaround on your product from seed to harvest, but it's also an endocrine disruptor. And all of this stuff is so new that we haven't done studies on like, well, what happens if somebody's eating every night they have a gummy that's got a little bit of paclobutrazol in it? Because when you make the concentrates or the oils that are concentrated to like 99% THC, you're also concentrating all of the oil soluble pesticides and fungicides. So those little, you know, the vape you buy on Snapchat or the gummies that you buy from a friend, they could have concentrated levels of these pesticides and fungicides. They could have other drugs mixed into them. They could just be pure synthetics that, you know, kind of mimic cannabis, but not really. So I think education for kids would be the most important one. Just be honest with them. Just be like, you're putting like, you know, garbage in your body. There could be long-term consequences for this. You could really fuck yourself up.
But this is why it's also really brave reporting on your part, not just the international implications and the crime implications and the trafficking implications, which we haven't even talked about that yet, but like, if you are able to get this conversation started even more in this nascent era of legalization, we can fix some of these problems and create a system where it's like a bar. Because I will tell you, one of the dumbest takes I ever had was, I mean, it wasn't my take, but I happily adopted it. Like,
of course.
That makes sense, you know?
That's culture, baby.
Back in like 2017 when all those weed stocks were coming onto the market, right?
Yeah.
So I was working on Wall Street at the time, and like
I was a Tilray investor.
I was a Tilray investor too. Yeah. So you know what it is.
I think I was probably one of the few people who sold and made money.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what I was doing with
stocks. I mean, I had $10 to invest, so it didn't really hurt. But let's put it this way: I didn't make money.
I came back from my honeymoon and checked, and I was like, "What the hell just happened?" I was like, "This is a little shit pot company. This is like two guys growing pot in Canada. Why is the stock worth this much?" Sell.
It blew the fuck up and then blew the fuck down. But one of the things, I can't remember. I don't think Tilray is a good example, but there were a lot of other companies where they were being subsidized or bought up by like Anheuser-Busch, Constellation Brands, all these alcohol companies that sell regular alcohol. You know what product you're getting. They distribute it in the millions across the country and the world. And I remember thinking, oh, perfect.
Yeah, Marlboro Green.
They'll be able to handle this, no problem. Nothing will get in there. And it's like, that's not at all how it turned out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it gets back to maybe we were talking about this before we started recording, but is it intentional or emergent? Which is, was this by design? Did some people in a smoke-filled, shadowy room plan it this way, or is it just the emergent result of independent actors following their own incentive structures?
Well, yeah, it's a good question.
Part of it's the state by state legality of it lends itself to smaller shops. It'd basically be like the alcohol market if you couldn't move alcohol across state lines legally. So if all the alcohol created in Maine had to be consumed in Maine legally, it's the only legal way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All the alcohol you consume and all in Maine has to come from Maine, and all the alcohol you generate has to be consumed in Maine if you're doing things legally. That's the way the weed market works. Ditto for Oklahoma, California, Michigan. You can't move it across state lines legally. So anybody doing it perfectly by the books legally is only selling within their state. And so it's harder to be that national economy of scale like a Anheuser-Busch or InBev. It's harder to do that in the marijuana space unless you're a multi-state operator and you've got like an overhead brand, but you've got different setups in each state and different suppliers in each state. So I think some of it's emergent based on how the regulatory landscape unfolded, because nobody could have predicted, California does their medicinal marijuana program in 1996 and it kind of evolves. You have normal and there's all these advocates, maybe like you and I in our high school or college years probably could have seen the trajectory of the way things were headed, but could you have guessed that Maine's going to be among the first states that legalizes a robust marijuana economy, whereas Florida is going to take a sharp turn red and be one of the states that says no to marijuana, like a legal, real cannabis economy. It'd be tough to predict that, but as a result, you do see that it's a free for all. There's a lot of really, really small actors. And again, the system has been set up to reward those with the loosest ethical principles, because there's a fucking huge incentive to just take your weed from Maine and over the border and sell it in New Hampshire at a tobacco shop as hemp. So you're going to make, 4 times the price. You're going to have no regulatory oversight, and you're right into traditional mainstream payment rails. And that can't be, it can't be overstated what a benefit that is, because legal marijuana operators have such a tough time getting banked. Finding someone who's just going to keep their savings account and their checking account is very hard, because they're a high risk business. It's federally illegal still. So they have to go with credit unions or financial institutions that are just operating within a given state. And they're getting their accounts canceled all the time. They can have trouble getting insurance, which if you can't get insurance and you've got $750,000 into your grow house, how are you going to do that? So the inability to keep their money at a bank, the inability to use payments processing like Visa or Square, because those two entities don't want anything to do with legal cannabis, honest cannabis, I guess you could call it. They won't touch that. So it has to be an all cash transaction. So there are all these weird ways that the ethical legal operators have to contort themselves, adds expense to their product, makes it harder to do business. But if you take the same exact plant and you sell it at a smoke shop down the street or in the next state over, you swipe your Visa card, swipe your Square, boom, right into your, insert mega bank here account. And it's clean money. It's no strings attached. That's just tobacco shop revenue, just like the thousands of other tobacco shops. I actually passed one on the way here, just a convenience store actually. But it had Feel Free.
Feel Free? Have
you seen that advertised?
No.
They're little drinks that have, I think it's 7-OH and Kava, which are two, I guess, newer drugs. 7-OH is synthetic. Kava is like a South American root or something. But Feel Free is one of the common products. Yeah, there you go. Looks like a little 5-hour energy drink. It's an alcohol alternative. Unregulated. No hangover. Just feel great.
18 plus?
Yeah, sure. It depends on which gas station you go to.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, that's a common one. You can see just when you search for it, the other brands come up. But
thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.